Why are cities important? And why should we care about getting city regions right? Watch the Urban Q to know what it takes to shape a city that works for all. Hello everyone. Today we are in conversation with Professor Carlos Moreno. Carlos is an internationally known expert who has worked on urban transformation programs globally. His impressive contributions include the concepts of smart and sustainable cities, and some time back, the notable 15-minute city. Carlos is the scientific advisor to the Mayor of Paris and has recently launched the Global Observatory of Sustainable Proximities. So we are here today to talk about cities, people, and how do we plan for and get people-centered, vibrant, and sustainable urban growth. Welcome, Carlos. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you on our podcast, The Urban Q.
Thank you for this kind invitation. A great pleasure.
All right. So let me begin by asking Carlos that which, is your favorite city? What does the city represent to you, first of all? And which city is your favorite city in the world?
City, in general, cities are the place where live the majority of population in the world today. For that, cities in general, or plural, represent for me a place where we need to transform radically our lifestyle in face with the global threats of global warming. I'm living in Paris for 44 years, and my favorite city, of course, is my city, Paris.
Fantastic. Now, Carlos, you are a proponent of the smart city concept. You conceptualized the digital sustainable city in 2006 and the smart city in 2010. How do you define a smart city, and how do you envision the future of living spaces and workspaces in cities?
I proposed, indeed, this concept of the smart and sustainable city. I said that we need in the 21st century to take a benefit of the presence and the power of technology. And I said at the same time that technology is not a target itself. Technologies in general are a powerful leverage for developing the most important point for cities to be sustainable, to preserve our biodiversity, our natural resources, for breaking with fossil energies, for developing a more useful life, to ban cars, to fight against pollution, to have breathable cities, to have water without pollution. A smart city with technology is not enough. A smart city for developing a sustainable city is a real accomplishment if we have decided to go in this way.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about the technology, but it's about maximizing and utilizing your sort of resources well within the envelope that you have. That's very interesting. So Carlos, moving on from the smart cities, in 2021, during the pandemic, your concept of the 15-minute city gained momentum. 15-minute city is one where your live, work, play amenities are all in close proximity. So you can either walk to them, cycle to them, or use public transit. And it's aided by the technology revolution in a way which you just referred to, because it has reduced the need to commute. The Mayor of Paris is a big proponent of this, as we all know, and really it's not very far off from the concept of the neighborhood unit that was conceptualized by Clarence Perry way back in the early 1900s. And you also cited Jane Jacobs as an inspiration. However, there are also contrary views that says that, the 15-minute city is utopian. How do you get that if a city is already in place? And if at all, it only can work for affluent neighborhoods. So basically, the 15-minute city has many different interpretations and people have many differing views. It would be greatly helpful if you could explain this concept for our listeners.
Yes, of course. In fact, I have conceptualized this concept in 2010. And after the COP21 in Paris, when the countries have signed the Paris Agreement, a few months after, in October 2016, I published for the first time this concept. For several years, this concept was under the radar because a lot of people said to develop a city for satisfying within a short perimeter our essential needs is just an utopia. I have developed for 3 years, from 2016 until 2018, different experiences in my city, in Paris. In 2019, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, has embraced this concept before the COVID-19 for proposing a new model in order to reconcile sustainability with the more vibrant local economy and to revigorate our neighborhoods with more livability.
Right.
I proposed this concept with the mayor of Paris in 2020 for her electoral campaign. And in March of 2020, with the COVID-19, with this planetary crisis, this concept has become very popular. But the most important point is to consider that with the 15-minute city for the high density zone territory, for the low and medium density zone, the most important point is not the number of minutes for having an access to the essential needs. The most significant point is to transform our lifestyle for having a more polycentric city, for delocalize our economy, for developing more local jobs, for developing short circuits, for offering more local commerce, cultural activities, pedagogical activities, medical services, for transforming our work style. And this is possible after the COVID-19. The 50-minute city, the 30-minute territory, in reality, is one view of this global picture, a happy, decentralized proximity. Our target is to improve the quality of life for offering more local services, for satisfying our essential needs, for reconquering public spaces for people and not for cars, for offering real public spaces without pollution, and for transforming the business model in our different cities. The 50-minute city, the 30-minute territory, the happy proximity is in reality another lifestyle, another work style for improving our quality of life with a more inclusive city, in a more livable city where sustainability, economy, and social inclusions could have a convergence for a positive impact.
So basically, you're saying this concept is meant to be inclusive. It is meant to lead to happier, self-contained, well-balanced kind of growth cities. But let me ask you this, that in the instance of Indian cities, people travel long distances to get to work. And while businesses may demand, like transport to their employees, seamless transport for their employees, they don't wish to locate in areas with better access to public transport, for example, for a variety of reasons, such as high cost of land or unwillingness to shift from one place to another where you have already set up. So in this case, how do you address this conundrum? So do you think it's possible to come to 15-minute cities with these kind of practical issues that we have? And whose responsibility is it to solve for these issues pertaining to the city?
Yeah, this is a good question. We need to evoke the strategic importance for transforming our cities. The first point, and including in particular in Indian cities, the current model of our cities in India in particular is not sustainable. We have a short-term vision. The question, in fact, is to continue to deploy this model based on long distances for just continuing to accept as normal 7 decades of not only long distances, but at the same time to spend a lot of time just for commuting.
Yes.
To have a hectic life from early in the morning until late in the evening without a real correct familial life. We have accepted to lose our social interactions in our neighbor. In reality, we have accepted to live without taking benefit with the real quality of life. A lot of people said to me, Professor Moreno, how could we transform our cities in our country, in this case, in the Indian cities? I said, the first point is to consider that we need to establish a new local urban plan for satisfying in the mid and long term this transformation. Our concept, this happy proximity, 50-minute city, 30 minutes territory, a polycentric city is not a magic wand. This is not a magical dust for transforming in a few months 7 decades of segregation, zonification, inequities, and the loss of social interactions. I said to the different stakeholders in the Indian cities, we need to propose a new trajectory, a new roadmap, a new path based on the local governance, mayor, president of metropolises, in order to transform our lifestyle. And the essential need today is to break with this very impressive segregation present in a lot of Indian cities. We need to have a real common good for developing another public urban policy. The common good, in my opinion, is at the heart of this transformation. With the common good, we have the possibility for considering that sustainability, economical justice, and social inclusions are the same element necessary, mandatory for transforming our cities. And at the same time, a new urban policy with based on the common good, with the policymakers in a middle and long-term plan, needs at the same time the participation of the private sector for continuing to develop a more vibrant local economy and a significant acceptability of citizen dwellers. In reality, this is a triptych: a local urban plan by this new public urban policy, the stakeholders, private sector, and the commitment with the massive citizen participation. We need these three elements for transforming this urban policy in a happy proximity new urban policy for the next years.
Now, that is correct. I mean, I think there is no concept or there isn't transformation that we can achieve in cities overnight. So this will take time, but looking at policies which are human-centered, which look at proximities as being sort of central to sort of developing cities for growth, are places that we need to start. And then we have many stakeholders who would play a role. You also mentioned sort of local plans, and coming to that, we also find that cities, and not just in India, but, across the globe, we make great ambitious plans, but those plans often don't translate on the ground in the spirit and the intent in which they were developed. And at least in the Indian case, I can tell you that there are tough challenges. There are legacy governance and capacity and finance issues. And this is challenging because a large part of India's 2050 urban development is yet to happen. So our cities are yet to be built. Our cities of the future are yet to be built. We are in this process of urbanization. So what are the three things that you would say Indian cities can do that can lead to a more sustainable form of development and growth? And how do you transform these, plans and policies on the ground in the right spirit and intent?
For a long time, including in Indian cities, we have decided to give a priority for building more and more infrastructures. We have a lot of infrastructures in our cities. And the common point was to continue to build infrastructures for going further and faster. We have developed these mega cities based on a lot of infrastructures with unequal accessibility. The model, for example, of the social housing is a model based on intensive segregation. We have concentrated in some areas the building for just having a social housing for people with low incomes without an accessibility for services, for working. We have developed the corporate business districts in the modern city with the very nice skylines, with the skyscrapers and beautiful places for the people with the blue, with the white colors. And we have generated a intensive car dependency. We have lost the idea of habitability. We have developed not only a car dependency, but at the same time, a fossil energy dependency. We have developed this idea that the normal model is to take a car because this is at the same time a social representation, and the infrastructures for the public transportation are overcrowded in the peak hours.
Right.
Early in the morning, late in the evening. We need to break with that. We need to develop an other model. We need to consider that in face with global warming, this model, it is not a viable model. With the global warming today, the Indian cities are so polluted by the presence of the massive cars during the day. 80% of Indian cities have a polluted air. A lot of cities are unbreathable.
Right.
We need today to be aware that even if this is the case today, it's not available for the next decade, for the next 20 years, for the next 30 years. And this is today when we maybe could have a real possibility for inversing this situation. And this is our duty, the public urban policy, the policymakers, the local governors, and at the same time, the economical actors for transforming this model to develop another kind of social housing based on the presence of more services in these areas, for having more schools, for having more places for accessing to the culture, theater, movies, for developing more short circuits, for developing more local raw materials, for having more medical services, for offering more public space in a decentralized way. We have accepted to live in so saturated cities. The new trend is to develop a massive desaturation, massive deconcentration, a massive distribution, a massive polycentricity. This is the key today for creating a new trajectory, including in Indian cities.
Thank you. That is quite right. I mean, I think what we can do right now is focus on things like well-connected social housing, which is connected to good basic infrastructure, creation of public spaces, moving away from car centricity in our policies and our design of cities. These are all things that can live to what you're calling habitable cities. So with that, Carlos, we've come to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much. And also for some of that myth busting around the concept of the 15-minute city. Congratulations to you on moving the needle on urban transformation in research and in action. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind invitation. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.